first person I'm going to tell about this is President Trump.
Oh, you
because
have
he needs to come here.
In the heart of the land we love, stands a warehouse tall and strong, where the spirit of freedom thrives, where patriots belong. The America First Warehouse, a beacon for all to see, a symbol of unity. For the patriots of America, we stand tall and free. In the America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be. With courage in our hearts and freedom in our eyes. The America First Warehouse, a beacon for all to see, a symbol of unity. For the patriots of America, we stand
My jingle.
tall and free. In the America First Warehouse.
Check one.
America First Warehouse, a beacon for all to see, a symbol of hope, a symbol of unity. For the patriots of America, we stand tall and free. In the America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be. The America First Warehouse, a beacon for all to see, a symbol of hope, a symbol of unity. For the patriots of America, we stand tall and free. In the America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be.
Thank you.
Wow. America in the dark no more. I think we're going to stand for justice for all. Is that correct? Just a pledge today? Yesterday we played the Justice for All anthem. It was the J6 anthem, singing the Star Spangled Banner while Donald Trump had the Pledge of Allegiance, and that's what I'm asking everybody to pledge allegiance to this amazing flag, our first flag here of victory. We know what our flag looks like now, and there's nothing like it. And personally, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I like to say, and James Justice for all. Have a seat, please. Everybody sit. I'm going to take just 2 seconds to thank everybody and thank God. They're giving us the ability, the First Lady and I, to build the America First Warehouse and share it. I honestly believe on my hands and knees that God is powering this place and that we are going to be the voice in the wilderness. The greatest prophet ever to walk the earth was John the Baptist, the voice in the wilderness, and I am inspired by that to let everybody know that this country is the greatest country on earth, one nation under God. I'm going to bring up a man that I've met on the corner of the D.C. Gulag many times, Chris Carter.
Hello.
Chris Carter.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure to be here.
I want to just say, Chris, I was very impressed with you. One of the first times I went down to Freedom Corner, and I got there early, and I was able to put the van basically right there. We were interviewing, because I saw you doing it, and I knew of you in the industry. And I was standing there when somebody threw a rock. I mean, it was a big boulder out of the cemetery to the ground. Gary McBride was there. I think he remembers this.
Protester.
Yeah, this anarchy princess or whatever she called herself down there.
She didn't make the movie.
Well, she didn't deserve to make the movie, honestly.
I figured everybody knows her already. We don't want to give her the stage for that, do we?
That's true. When she missed me with the rock completely, God protected me there. But this man has created something for all our eyes to see. It's the first that anybody has seen it, and I understand it's worldwide here out of the America First Warehouse. And Chris Carter, this is your stage. We are proud to represent you and what you're going to be bringing. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Everybody here, I really just want to take the time to say thank you so much, and we're going to get into this. I'll make it really quick. This has been a historic event that has happened to all of us, and the world has seen this, what has happened over the last 4 years. The censorship and the J6ers. What you get when you censor the people in a country founded upon rebellion and they feel like they're not being heard manifests itself into an event like January 6th, right? Now, there's a lot of stories in here that you're not going to see because there's so much material. I had to really give, I'd have to say, a broad general version for the general public who doesn't know as in-depthly as people in the audience here today know, extensively what has happened, down to badge numbers of police in video clips. You'll see all of this. So I'm not going to stand up here. We always say in journalism, if you say it, show it. So right now, Mr. Director will roll the movie as soon as I walk off the stage. Thank you so much. And to the online audience, if you want to purchase the movie, it's at americainthedark.net. And let me know what you think. Please comment and please share. Thank you.
And that's why it's been so difficult over the past 4 years when even the US government has pushed for censorship. By going after us and other American companies, it has emboldened other governments to go even further.
This next item is a directive to the federal government ordering the restoration of freedom of speech and preventing government censorship of free speech going forward.
In the shadows of power, a hidden war rages, fought not with guns or bombs, but with information. In the quiet corridors of government, behind closed doors, and on screens that light up our lives, a new kind of control is taking root. The truth is no longer something we can trust. It's something we must fight to find. This is the story of a nation in crisis, a country that once prided itself on freedom and democracy, now teetering on the edge of an unseen abyss, a place where dissent is silenced, where voices are erased, and where the very foundations of liberty are being rewritten before our eyes. Big tech has aligned itself with the deep state, and they have a plan to shape reality, control what you see, and decide what you believe. In this digital age, the line between truth and manipulation has all but vanished, and those who dare challenge the narrative, they are erased, censored, forgotten. On January 6, 2021, the people rose, angry, disillusioned, demanding answers. They were branded as threats, insurgents, terrorists. But what if the real threat isn't the people in the streets? What if the true insurgency lies within the very system that claims to protect us? What if the greatest danger to democracy is the one behind the curtain?
January 6th actually began on January 5th. I was at a rally on Freedom Plaza in Washington, D.C., and tons of people were there. This was basically a who's who of MAGA. It was a gathering to meet and to see what was going to happen the next day at the Capitol. And at the time, nobody really knew what was going to happen.
But those of you that stand for righteousness and stand for God and stand for this nation will never be forgotten. It's time to stand up, church. It's time to stand up, patriots. It's time to stand up, pastors, and push back. This is America, and we're going to keep it free. If you believe that, give the Lord some praise. I said we're gonna keep it free.
And at the time, nobody really knew what was going to happen. Big-time newsmakers like Alex Jones, Roger Stone, and many other people from the Trump administration gathered in the tent that night next to the rally. They called it the Jericho Rally. I was there speaking to people and reporting. Listen to what some of the people were saying that night.
Tomorrow is a great day. We don't quietly take the election fraud. We don't quietly take the scam and believe their BS.
How do you feel right now at this moment?
I feel hopeful. 1 million Americans are going to come here tomorrow.
I can tell you.
Stand up for truth.
And there is no question whatsoever that he won a majority of the legal votes cast.
Maybe 40 degrees out here, but it sure feels like 1776.
Everyone's gonna look back, and I hope they're damn proud of what they did during this very pivotal moment.
This moment is going to be about how the American people rose up and came together.
I'd like to see 1,000 more years of human freedom and 1,000 more years of the United States of America.
Well, you know, I think they're going to say that this is a moment where people stood for first principles. You know, people really stood up to those ideals of freedom of speech.
What history was saying that if the patriots have come together, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, red, yellow, have come together and reminded America this is like 1776, where we did not allow people to tread on us, but they declared that you're going to give us liberty or give us death. You could not accept the election. It was a fraud election, and Americans are coming out to let the whole world know. That's what history is going to tell us today.
I'm bringing up right now is a friend of mine, George Papadopoulos.
It's an incredible moment being here in Washington, D.C., here with my wife supporting God-loving patriots out here who don't want to see their country stolen from them. So that's why I'm out here, why we're out here, and it's something I wouldn't miss for the world.
He is still the elected president of this republic, and we do not recognize the communist Chinese agent Joe Biden or his controllers.
We're here just supporting the president right now. Our business is open every day.
I mean, this is incredible. It is pouring down rain out here, and there are thousands of patriots who are out here, and they are so pumped up to just be here, to stand up, to stop the steal, and to stand up for President Trump. I think that history is going to say that this is like the second revolution. We don't stand up for our rights, and we put up with this rigged election. I think it's the end of our country, as we know.
The people that often go unseen and unknown.
You know, I feel good. I think we're going to see some good things this weekend. I'm excited that the president is going to be here, and I think that we're going to see our Congress stand up.
The history books are going to show this president very favorable, typically in the present.
I'm going to show you what I'm looking at right here.
Come on, Patriots, give God one more hand clap.
And we're going to rule and reign. To support our Constitution, our grandfathers and our forefathers before us that died, that lost their limbs and their lives.
To remember the moment when people fought for Uncle Sam and fought for the Republic and fought for the Constitution.
We're not going away! We're not going away! We're not going away! We're not going away!
This movement goes on and on and on. MAGA doesn't end with Trump. MAGA is, I think, we're a family, we're a patriotic movement in this country, we're a revolution.
You guys have a problem. A big problem, because the patriots of the United States of America are not going away. This problem is not going anywhere. We want free and fair elections. We want to know that we do not exist in an oligarchy that is controlled by the liberal media and controlled by the elites in Washington, D.C. I'll leave with this. There was a man that signed the Declaration of Independence.
What happened on
And his name,
for once and for all, we're getting
his name was Lewis Morris.
That was a miracle.
And he was a developer in New
On election night at exactly 11:15, those machines broke, the algorithms broke. And when they broke, he was going to win in spite of all the fraud.
What do you think about the way history will remember this moment in time?
It's only our government if
pivotal.
it's legitimate.
Let me just put that. I don't know which way it's going to pivot. That depends upon the resolve of the Americans who are not here to call their state representatives, especially in those swing states, and force them to certify the electors for Trump and decertify the electors for Biden.
What do you think the mainstream media's role was in this last election?
They become a propaganda arm of the left. There's yellow journalism, there's investigative journalism, there's regular journalism. It's gone beyond yellow journalism. They're propagandists, period.
Because there is a God that created the universe, and there is a God that inspired our republic, and there is a God in the control of the affairs of humans, and that God will see us through if we are loyal.
I spoke on January 5th at 2 legally permitted events. I did express my belief that America faces a choice between dark and light, between good and evil, between the godly and the godless. I'm entitled to have an apocalyptic Christian view of the fight we're in. That's my First Amendment right and my right to religion. I don't regret anything I said because I didn't say anything inappropriate. I never urged anyone to hurt anyone else, any place, including at the Capitol on January 6th.
Thank you, Jesus. Because I am living proof that God can do anything. And when I was targeted for a legal lynching just up the road in a Soviet-style show trial, and when a wicked judge wanted to send me to a COVID-19 infested prison because they did not want my appeal to reach the courts because it would expose their corruption. On the advice of Reverend Mark Burns and Pastor Mark Burns, and Reverend Franklin Graham and Reverend Randy Coggins and so many others, my own Monsignor Grady back in Fort Lauderdale, I turned this problem over to God. I got right with God, I confessed my sins, I pledged to walk in His way, and I can tell you, God will never desert you, God will never abandon His people, God will deliver you from your persecutors. Yes!
The mood at those rallies was uplifting, it was joyous, people were there to express their First Amendment rights. Every American has the First Amendment rights to question the anomalies and the irregularities in the 2020 election. I actually never had any doubt that the Senate was going to certify the election. I thought that would happen. That did happen.
To Jesus, the Constitution is our roadmap to freedom. This is about the presidency, this is about our Constitution, this is about our country.
If we'll repent of our sins and call on His name, He'll forgive you. I said the Church of the Lord Jesus Christ started America.
Here's what I'm going to tell you tonight. It's all about tomorrow, up on that hill up there, where we have to make sure that they look into what has been the theft of this presidential election.
God will fulfill His destiny and will reward the righteous.
It amazed me that so many of these Americans from all walks of life and socioeconomic status were meeting to save America. I know it sounds so cliche, but they are really meeting to save America.
There's more and more evidence that this is a false flag operation, that this is an induced insurrection.
My great-grandfather's father's flag. He fought for this country. This was on his casket. My grandfather served in World War II. My father served. I have forefathers that fought in the Union War, settled the Oregon Territory, so I'm here. I can't let them down, can't let the country go. I'm here to represent them. I'm here to fight for our freedom.
Many of these people would end up going to jail, and that's really where the deep state starts to reveal itself through lawfare. Guys that night that were speaking, like Michael Flynn, George Papadopoulos, and many others would end up going to jail. Nobody really knew what was going to happen the next day. They knew it was going to be big, but the vibe, it was pretty celebratory. Some of these guys would take bad deals down the line, or some would be associated with others who had been under the spotlight for quite some time. I mean, I can tell you that we've spoken about this so many times. The smartest thing I ever did that day was not go to the Capitol. The deep state can get you in jail and label you, that's the goal. That seems to be the desire more than anything we've seen. Look at what they've done to President Trump with all the cases and the impeachments and all these trials. So let's talk about the social media aspect of it. During that time, think about the prelude to J6. Parler was the free speech platform. This thing was exploding. Millions of people were communicating. So as January 6th was beginning, I could tell you right off the bat, Washington, D.C., my hometown, had a completely different vibe than I had experienced before. I've done a ton of events all over this town as a journalist. This was something different. The vibe was dark and cold, but there was also like this anger in the air. Where I was at the White House Ellipse, it looked completely different from what was going on down the street at the Capitol. The Secret Service was making people ditch everything before getting near Trump on the White House Ellipse. I mean, this was a crazy scene. People were leaving bags and purses and gear in huge piles, and nobody was touching it. You would never see that on a regular day in Washington, D.C. It was the first symbol that this was going to be a different event. There at the White House, we had no idea the security lapses that were going on down the street. We've all seen the videos. The Capitol was left wide open with a few small bike racks standing in between a few hundred officers and hundreds of thousands of Trump supporters. I'm there regularly. It should have been secured a lot faster and stronger. We've all seen what happened. That day has destroyed thousands of families and people that had no idea what they were getting into. There's so many questions around what happened, from people being in the crowd to FBI knowing weeks ahead of time. Either way you look at it, the Congress and the media have dropped the ball in convincing the American public. Take the case of someone like Stewart Rhodes, the head of the Oath Keepers, who was not even at the Capitol on January 6th. I've actually interviewed him 3 times. He's had a lot to say to me, and he stands by what he says about the election. Mr. Rhodes, thank you so much for joining Real America's Voice. Tell me right off the bat, how do you feel about the government's case against you?
Well, it's non-existent. It's a trumped-up case. It's very much like you would see in a Stalinistic show trial.
And tell me, how do you think about these J6 defendants taking these plea deals?
I think it's unfortunate, but that's what happens when you're denied bond or denied release prior to trial, like I have been also. So they want you to feel despair, feel like you have no other choice but to give in. That's what's happening to a lot of these people. And they need better criminal defense attorneys as well. I think the Republicans need to step up. President Trump himself needs to step up and fund their defense, make sure we have adequate defense.
What motivated you to be in Washington, D.C. on January 6th?
We were there to do security, as we've done in prior Stop the Steal rallies, November, December, and January, very much the same exact drill to protect people against Antifa. That's why we were there.
And tell me, how do you feel about this current Congress?
Well, here's the situation we're in. Is not only was there a lot of fraud in the election, but also the election in 2020 at the federal level was actually unconstitutional. And that's something that's not been said enough. It's only been litigated by one attorney, Kelly Sorrell out of Texas. But Article 1, Section 4 says the time, place, and manner of holding elections for senators, representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof, but the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations. That means that federal law and state law for elections must be followed, and yet every one of the state laws were set aside, and federal election laws was also set aside in the name of COVID, and they did something else entirely different by executive fiat. That's unconstitutional. So you don't have a sitting Congress that's legitimately elected, unfortunately.
What do you think the role Nancy Pelosi played in January 6th was?
Well, they're cutting me off, guys.
All right,
So
Mr.
apparently-
Rhodes, thank you so much for joining Real America's Voice. We're going to continue to monitor your story.
Apparently, I don't have a First Amendment right in your jail.
That was Stuart Rhodes, the founder of the Oath Keepers. We'll continue to monitor this developing story as these January 6 defendants now go to trial. Stuart Rhodes would get convicted of seditious conspiracy to overthrow the U.S. government. He told me in jail in Alexandria, Virginia, that he doesn't ever plan on getting out unless a conservative president gets elected and pardons him. We all know that's Trump. You also take a look at how some of the key players in this historic event, they've gained wealth and notoriety after January 6th. There's a few individuals, and one immediately comes to mind. Mike Fedone was pulled out of the tunnel, and there are a lot of differing accounts of his story. Listen to what Gary McBride from Texas has to say about this.
Michael Fedone, with what the J6 committee showed with his videos. They stopped the video right before he opens his eyes when he's being drugged in the hallway and he looks around. They talk about he had 2 heart attacks. They talk about how he walked arm in arm with his partner, Jimmy Albright, his MPDC partner, arm in arm, and they were throwing up. None of that's true. None of that's true. You're talking about the scratches on his neck. Did he get shocked on the neck? Yeah, but it wasn't directly on the neck. It was on the protective vest. He's going to feel a little bit of that, but it's not like, and he talks about how he was kicked in the head. There's no way he was kicked in the head with that crowd as close as everybody was. He never fell on his back. But people don't see that because they're not showing it.
There's all this violent footage that day in the tunnel, but if you listen to what Philip Anderson has to say about it.
Even when Roseanne Boylan was lying there dead, a police officer's beating down on her, okay? And then they come up to you and they say, oh, it's because she died of an overdose. No, you literally crushed her to death, and then you beat her after she was dead. And if Jake Lang hadn't pulled me out, I would be dead too. To where they can kill someone, lie about the way that they were killed, lie about the cause of death, and cover up everything. And they won't say the names of the police officers. We know the name of the police officer that beat Roseanne Boylan when she's dead. We know the name of the police officers that did lots of bad things, but it's just disgusting that Nancy Pelosi have a select committee without showing the footage. If she shows the full footage that we've been asking for, it will show that the police did wrong. It will show what happened in that tunnel was a death trap. I would not be alive. They would have killed me. And the fact they had the audacity to call Jake Lang and these other people white supremacists and racists when they saved my life, there's no limit to how filthy and evil these people are.
Philip Anderson almost died that day in the tunnel. He was passed out, and you could see him right there being dragged out. It's really amazing that he lived. When you take a look at what the January 6th committee has done, it seems it's made things worse because partisanship has taken a center stage. I mean, what the American public has had to endure is a tremendous amount of wasted bandwidth. Nobody feels better about anything. This is where the term newswashing comes into play because of the way certain networks went wall to wall with this testimony, and how they covered that was questionable, to say the least. The investigation was incomplete. That's probably the understatement of a century. Take, for instance, the case of Ashley Babbitt, who was shot inside the Capitol that day on January 6th. The officer, Lieutenant Michael Boyd, says he shot Ashley as a last resort. Witnessing the glass was broken, we could see he tightened his grip on the pistol and pulled the trigger from point-blank range. It's been a difficult journey for Mickey. Mickey Whithoff has spoken about how this has changed her life. You've become kind of a de facto spokesperson for this movement. How has your life changed since this happened in your office?
Well, it's changed in every way you can imagine. I'm from San Diego. I plan on going back to San Diego, but I've relocated here to DC for the last 2 years. And there's quite a difference. And, changed in every way you can imagine. You know, things I used to believe to be true, I don't believe anymore. You know, I lived a blissful existence until you know, Ashley was murdered, and everything has changed since then. You know, I not only did Ashley die, but I don't believe in the goodness and the truth of our leaders and the people in charge of this country.
Some others have taken to the cause in a different way. Every night at the D.C. jail, supporters gather to listen to inmates call from inside as they hold a musical and religious ceremony for like over 2 years now.
Who's responsible for the murder of Ashley Babbitt? Where does it say that a police officer is excused from first-degree murder because of trespassing? The woman was not armed, and she was not a danger to anyone. Under any other circumstance, that officer would be prosecuted. But this is a unique situation. Nancy Pelosi is responsible for the death of Ashley Babbitt.
The deep state has pushed these people into a war they never knew they were going to get into, right? Who's next? Another person that's a figurehead in all this was Enrique Tarrio, the leader of the infamous Proud Boys. We've always seen the videos of the Proud Boys during the events leading up to January 6th, and then as well as during January 6th. He was arrested for carrying ammunition magazines when he got off a plane here at National Airport in Virginia. So let me ask you, how do you get those on a plane? The answer is you don't. Right. They were planted. You get it. There have been so many deep state plays to undermine the will of the American people. When will it ever seriously end? Most people have no idea what happened to Alex Jones and Roger Stone the morning of January 6th at the Willard Hotel.
After the president spoke, the Secret Service called my hotel room and asked me if I wanted an escort to the Capitol. I never had any plans to go to the Capitol. I never went to the Ellipse. I never went to the Capitol. I was inside the entire time. I do know that around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, one of my friends was flying private out of Dulles and offered me a ride, and I took it. Therefore, when the police arrived at my room at 5 o'clock, looking for me, for what reason I cannot imagine, I was gone. Well, I declined to be escorted up to the Capitol. Had I agreed, I would have arrived at almost the exact time that people were breaking in. That's an estimate on my time, looking at the time sequence. In the case of Alex Jones, it's my understanding that he had the same offer, as did Ali Alexander. They accepted the Secret Service offer to escort them to the Capitol, but because Jones stopped in the men's room, the timing was off, and they actually got there, I believe, after people had already broken in.
So the Secret Service shows up to apparently offer them an escort to the Capitol to make sure they were safe. Now, anybody who knows how Washington works knows this isn't the way it works. And what happened was kind of interesting because I guess taking a little bit longer in the hotel than originally planned, he arrived at the Capitol and they inserted him right into the crowd, and then the Secret Service detail just disappeared. Everybody's seen the footage and knows the Capitol Hill police were not ready. They left many crucial spots open and had no backup from the National Guard. You know, it's not like they didn't have months of warning since November even that something huge was going to happen. I mean, every MAGA rally was massive. Look at the security usually around the Capitol and the perimeter of the grounds, you know, and how it usually looks. It usually looks pretty fortified when something big is about to happen. And, you know, people know the deep state allowed it to happen. Pelosi said it herself when she was shooting her documentary on January 6th with her daughter that they should have been ready. They're in the SUV with their 10 security guards.
It's on tape with her daughter. Nancy Pelosi was responsible for not taking advantage of 10,000 soldiers or 1,000. You wouldn't have you could have used 400. It was a relatively small crowd. It wasn't the crowd that was at the mall. It was a small crowd.
We have responsibility, Terry. We did not have any accountability for what was going on there, and we should have. This is ridiculous. Why weren't the National Guard there to begin with?
They thought that they had sufficient
That
resources.
is not a question of how they have been. They don't know. They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more, because it's stupid that we should be in a situation like this. Because they thought they had what? They thought these people would act civilized? They thought these people gave a damn?
Then lawmakers have claimed that evidence now has been deleted. I mean, can you believe this? This is where we are.
Somebody hosted a rally to protest the treatment of the January 6th detainees, so they used that as an excuse to put the fence back up, and then lo and behold, the only people who show up are government informants and people working for the government. So I guess they were trying to set a second trap.
See somebody, the member of the media, be kind and respectful. They may ask you if you'd like to be interviewed. Now, if you're not used to this, I would recommend that you don't, because we've gotten a lot of misrepresentation. They're trying to say that this is a rally in support of the violent people who attacked and killed police officers on January 6th, and that is absolutely not what this is about.
These poor bastards who are being imprisoned now in solitary confinement, given an hour a week without ability to see their lawyers. One man has cancer that isn't able to get the proper care. They certainly do not deserve that.
Innocent Americans are being tortured in our prisons. That's to stop. The Taliban were treated more respectfully than our prisoners. And I'm not just saying, again, January 6th, every prisoner in there.
We all saw President Trump's speech. Nowhere did he incite any kind of violence. This was just a MAGA march for making America great. Patriotism is someone standing up for their country, saying
any patriot standing up for this country, and anybody that was arrested on that day, and they're being charged for insurrection and all this other stuff, I think that it's very unfortunate that the world doesn't understand how there was a setup.
I'm out here to demonstrate against the continued incarceration of the guys from January the 6th. They should be prosecuted and pay for their crimes, but they shouldn't be in jail.
There was undercover Antifa that originally stormed the Capitol. I believe that the Capitol Police were involved in that and helping them just walk in the building.
It was completely set up. We all know that it was set up. In my opinion, and many Americans' opinion, it was set up. And now they are not being allowed due process as we heard today. So it's heartbreaking. And I believe, I know that if they can do it to them and get away with it, they're coming to a door near you soon.
The Patriots had no idea that that was going to happen, so they followed him in. But they didn't instigate violence on police officers. Like all the media coverage that's saying that they hurt, Capitol Police or whatever. That's not what we do. That's not how we handle our business.
We want to let our political leaders know that if they do not do something about this, then
so those are people
they will not be in office.
Illegally.
We're just here to stand up for America and get the truth out about the way Joe Biden is owned by China and how the election was stolen, and that's why I'm here. I'm a proud patriot. I served my country, and I just want to be here in support of the rest of Americans that are patriots that believe in our cause.
But how do you trespass on something that's supposed to belong to the people? The Capitol belongs to the people.
We just want our country back, and that's what we're fighting for. And we're trying to do it in a non-violent manner. Anybody that's instigating violence. I was here on November 21st when we had a mega rally, and I witnessed Antifa doing domestic terrorism on just people that were sitting down having dinner at restaurants around here. They waited for the sun to go down and started attacking people.
All the footage the American public was demanding to see, much of it has been deleted. We've seen certain journalists cover this adequately, but not many. I think certain people in Washington are afraid to touch this. That day on the Ellipse was unique in the aspect that many of the people were from all over the country and, from different backgrounds. I saw no media off the riser other than myself. Listen to what some of these people were saying.
When I look back, I hope that we're not going to be afraid to call this what it is, which is a criminal offense against our country. We're talking about a Democratic Party aligned with possibly the CCP to use an election to take the most productive country, its people, its military, just like that. I don't think so. You're not going to pencil whip us out of a country. This is not going to go down. So that's why I'm here.
When I look back on this as a historic event, I'm a soldier from Vietnam. I lived over a year in the jungle of Vietnam. I fought for this nation. I bled for this nation. And many, many, many of my friends already died, fought and died for this nation. I'm very, very proud of these people here during this historic event. Very proud of them.
In an era where information flows instantly and globally, the power to control what is seen and heard has never been greater. Social media platforms have become the battleground for debates on freedom and censorship.
The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms.
As our world becomes more interconnected, social media platforms hold unprecedented influence over public discourse. But with this power comes the responsibility and the challenge of managing free speech and combating misinformation. Censorship happens now at a global level. The concept of digital censorship is not new, but its scope and scale have evolved dramatically. From algorithm-driven content moderation to outright bans, the ways in which platforms manage content are shaping our digital experience. Censorship on social media isn't always black and white. While some argue it's necessary to prevent harm, others see it as a dangerous encroachment on free speech. The line between protecting users and restricting expression is increasingly blurred. Elon Musk's acquisition of Twitter represents a significant shift in the social media landscape. His promises of increased transparency and reduced censorship have sparked both optimism and skepticism among users and critics alike. Musk's vision for Twitter includes sweeping changes to content moderation and its policies of censorship and banning. While some hail these changes as a return to free speech, others worry about the potential for increased misinformation and censorship on a global level.
The legacy media wrote non-stop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact-checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US.
The debate over conservative censorship on social media platforms reflects broader tensions about political bias and freedom of expression. Accusations of unfair treatment and algorithmic bias have fueled a heated discussion about the role of technology in shaping political discourse.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States
the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help me God. Congratulations, Mr. President.
This next item is a directive to the federal government ordering the restoration of freedom of speech and preventing government censorship of free speech going forward.
For many conservatives, social media censorship, it feels like a direct threat to their ability to participate in the public debate. But determining whether these claims reflect systemic bias or necessary content moderation is an ongoing and contentious issue, to say the least. The global impact of this cannot be understated. Social media censorship is not just a national issue. Different countries grapple with how to regulate digital spaces while respecting cultural and legal differences. The consequences of these regulations are felt worldwide. In authoritarian regimes, social media censorship often extends to suppressing dissent and controlling the narrative. In democratic societies, the challenge is finding a balance that protects free speech while addressing harmful content. The evolving landscape of social media and censorship underscores a critical challenge for our time. How do we safeguard free speech while preventing harm in a digital world? The decisions made today shape the future of global communication. As we navigate this digital frontier, it's essential to remain vigilant and engaged. The quest for a fair and open internet is ongoing, and every voice matters in this critical conversation. People are looking at censorship and free speech all the time now. In an area of digital communication, social media platforms hold unparalleled power over public discourse. But as we navigate censorship and influence, what are the real implications for free speech in democracy? Social media has transformed how we connect, but its control over what we see and say is increasingly under scrutiny. Elon Musk's $44 billion acquisition of Twitter promised a new era of transparency and free speech. But as Musk implements changes, questions remain about whether these platforms will balance openness with the need for responsibility to manage this content. Musk's takeover has redefined the conversation around free speech online. But will his vision enhance or undermine the platform's role in managing harmful content? What is harmful content? Some people find it harmful, some people don't. Now, on to Facebook. The Facebook scandal exposed how Facebook was bending to demands from the Biden administration, and it highlights the importance between free speech and government control. Mark Zuckerberg finally admitted to this, and skeptics have long criticized Facebook's involvement in the 2020 election, banning certain opposing viewpoints of the organization, squashing COVID-19 theories, suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop story. All of these things happened. Now, following the January 6th Capitol riot, Twitter and Facebook banned President Donald Trump, citing risks of further incitement. This unprecedented action sparked a fierce debate about the role of social media in political discourse. Let's not forget about the evisceration of the platform Parler. The ban of Donald Trump from major social media platforms marked a pivotal moment, raising questions about the limit of free speech and the power of these tech giants. Facebook's role in influencing the 2020 election was unprecedented. Recent revelations confirm that Facebook worked closely with the White House during the 2020 election and has acknowledged its role in doing so. They were moderating content, influencing political discourse, all the things that conservative journalists have been reporting about. Facebook's admission of collaboration with the White House during the 2020 election underscores the complex interplay between social media and political influence. Now to the bigger story, the Hunter Biden laptop story, once suppressed by major social media platforms, has now been verified. This raises important questions about how platforms handle sensitive political information. To say that this was highly sensitive was an understatement of the decade. Governments are increasingly partnering with tech companies to manage online content, leading to concerns about overreach and erosion of privacy. Collaboration between governments and tech giants has sparked this massive debate over the balance between combating misinformation and censorship and letting the people speak freely. Accusations of conservative censorship on social media have fueled controversy, with claims of bias against right-leaning viewpoints and debates about platform fairness. The debate over conservative censorship highlights the challenges of content moderation and also raises big questions about fairness and bias in social media policies. The global impact of social media censorship cannot be understated. The choices made today will shape the future of digital communication. The future of social media will depend on how we address these critical issues of free speech and censorship. Tomorrow is the 4-year anniversary of January 6th. What will the Capitol look like on the anniversary of this historic event? What levels will the security be? I think about that night, January 5th, and all the people that were here. So much has happened to the J6 defendants because of the deep state. Nobody thought when this historic event began that it would have escalated to where it is today. The Congress hasn't satisfied the public's demand for an explanation of what went down, starting with what happened here January 5th into what happened down the street the next day, January 6th. President Trump has campaigned on pardoning the January 6ers. These January 6ers have filed a lawsuit against the federal government, and they're holding a press conference tomorrow in Washington. It all began right here at Freedom Plaza on January 5th, 2021. What took place here that evening would then escalate into the historic event the next day. The deep state had plans that would change people's lives forever. So I took a lap around the Capitol here on the anniversary of January 6th. There's a secure perimeter, police presence, 500 National Guard on standby. It makes you wonder, why weren't they here that day at the Capitol when they were needed the most, when they had weeks of notice, when they knew that all the supporters of the former president were going to be coming here. 4 years later, here we are. And down the street here, we've actually got the J6 defendants holding a press conference. This is the pardon press conference. At this point, I think it's some 1,500 active cases. Nobody would have thought 4 years later this is where we would be with Trump taking the oath of office on January 20th. Some people are outraged, some people are ecstatic, but either way, you can feel the shift in the country. I can tell you right now, just being out here with the media and taking a look at different police presence, my life would have been considerably different that day if I had just walked past those steps and up onto the Capitol grounds.
My name's Trennis Evans, and I've been fighting with the January 6th defendants now for 4 years, as I was one. I was a person in the building. I was the person seen on a megaphone, clearly helping the Capitol Police clear the building.
Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you. Please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They are truly on the side of our country.
I didn't start it. They maced me.
Yes, they did. The last one is Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution, giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts, not the fraudulent or inaccurate ones which they were asked to previously certify. U.S. demands the truth. We the people.
Clearly advocating for peaceful protests and demonstration. We were not only protesting, but we were also in support of many of the people that were in that building that day in their legislative capacity. 147 members of Congress had agreed to step in and have something to say about this process. And all we were asking for, not to have the election overturned, we were asking for a meaningful review. We had a meaningful review of the hanging chads in West Palm Beach. We've had meaningful reviews of elections throughout history. And that's all we wanted. We didn't want the election overturned and Donald Trump handed the presidency. We wanted to be sure that the legal, lawful votes and the intent of the voters was cast, not to subvert what we wanted, but to have the actual process be as it was intended by the will of the voters. You know, personally, I've had flashbang grenades and I've seen all this show up at my house. I've seen my son at gunpoint, my 13-year-old son, trying to go out the door to school. And that day, that changed me forever that day. It wasn't being at the Capitol that changed me. It wasn't the stolen election. What changed me, what created this, when they look at me and wonder, how does this guy end up like this? They created me, so they like to think of me as radical. So I have radical speech of the idea that I believe in freedom, liberty, the Constitution, the will of the voter, etc. That's not radical. That's consistent with American ideology. You put my 13-year-old son at gunpoint. I looked out my door to see the red dots all over my truck. The videos are there. We have the video evidence of that. That moment changed me. I do believe there's good people in the FBI. I think of the 13,000 some odd, 30 some odd thousand FBI agents. I believe there's a lot of good ones in there. But where were you for this 4 years? You did things you didn't believe in. You took bad direction. You took bad orders. And you have to stand up. You people should have stood up long ago. You can't say this machine's too big. This machine was too big. This entire weight of the federal government, the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch came for me and 1,600 other Americans. And I stood here and I weathered this storm. Here we are. We turned this thing around. We didn't allow them to trample us with the false narrative, the jackbooted thuggery of putting their boot on our throats. We stood and we weathered those storms, and here we are today. We are now going to see Donald Trump back in office. We're going to see pardons. We're going to see retribution. We're going to see actual justice take place as the United States Constitution should be upheld. And the people that committed these crimes, if they're allowed, if we play the game of the patty cake politics and say, well, okay, we're going to rise above that and we're going to move on. If we play the typical Republican drumbeat, that mantra, they will snap back harder 4 years from now. This isn't about retribution. It's not about lawfare. It's about a response to this. It's about rectifying a situation that's way awry of anything that our constitutional foundational guidelines would advocate or would point to it being actual reality. But the deep state really is comprised of the people that are right out in the open. There's not this secret monarchy that operates in the backdrop that I'm aware of. I don't see them. They don't have to. You got the federal judges regularly avoid the law, abuse their power, operate with impropriety from the bench. They don't have the freedom to do as they will. I've gone to members of the United States Congress, showed them absolute evidence, video proof of issues, show them what judges have done, shown them things, and said this, and they've said, the information you just brought me scares me to death.
Bottom line is... You're backsliding a bit. It's easy to critique. It's easy to critique someone that's conducting action. I guess what people fail to understand, for the viewers at home, is that what part of retired Lieutenant Colonel Green Beret and constitutional lawyer did Jackass Smith fail to understand? And what did he fail to understand, as well as everyone on my deep state target list? And I'm going to set out to guarantee consequences to every single person on that deep state target list. I make my personal guarantee. So do you think that if I say something like that, it has a little bit more credibility than, say, somebody that's a bum on the street? I suppose so, yeah. And if I were to show you, and you don't need to get it from me, you can get it from your boy Andy McCabe, who works for you guys, and he can call into his little deep state minions that are still over at the Bureau doing an illegal FISA on me with good old FISA court members, right? That are all appointed by your boy John Brennan, the Supreme Court Chief Justice. Every single FISA judge. How long is your deep state list? So initial list was 350. Right. That your colleagues at Raw Sewage reported. Can I look it up here? Yeah. It's online, right? 350. I would say that it's about 1,400 right now.
So, I mean, people who are on this list, they're not all big names like
they're not
Pelosi. Some of them are kind of basic private citizens, right? In a way.
So let's focus on that.
Should they be afraid?
Jamie Raskin's wife, Sarah Raskin, they're both on the list. Jamie's on the list for his legislative duties of defrauding the government and defrauding the American people through the impeachment. Second impeachment, right? And then the other, his wife Sarah, was one of the 39 that illegally unmasked General Flynn to illegally spy on him during the 2016 to 2017 transition period. Sarah Raskin's her name. And they're over there in Montgomery County. Guess who else is from Montgomery County that's a close bestie of Mr. Ratskin? It's the chief of the Capitol Police, Thomas Manger. I've done the link analysis on all these people. These people committed absolute lawless, wanton discretions to our U.S. constitutional order, and they must be held to account. They have to be. And the way we get there is that it's not going to be coming through you. You're just providing me a venue to educate those critical thinkers on X, to include Elon Musk, to go ahead and hear this out and be like, oh, wow, Ivan's done his research. He's done a little bit due diligence. Oh, wow. His sources are actually the best sources that you can even think of to be able to put forth this information. you might want to leave the country on or about January 20th. I think that's pretty sound advice.
Really, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. But it doesn't matter where you are on the planet. We have a kind of long arm reach. Your buddy, Michael Fanone from the Metropolitan Police Department. Remember him?
Can I ask?
Tourette's, known drug abuser. I mean, this is according to his own book. I read his book.
So,
did you do the due diligence to read his book? Obviously not. I mean, your credibility is kind of like lowering by confronting me and not knowing some basic information. So I'm trying to be serious here, and you're trying to throw a little bit of a kind of street
I'm just
yellow press jargon in
trying
there.
to get your
Which
attention.
is, I mean, disrespectful, I think, to your viewers.
Will you be disappointed if in 12 months from now somebody hasn't been hung for treason or executed for treason?
Will I be disappointed? I think the nation will be furious.
It made me do more research and find platforms that don't censor, like X, so I could find out the truth for myself.
I truly didn't think we were getting all the information that we should have. So it's imperative that, let's let us, the public, make the decision as to what we want to believe.
I mean, for me, just being a younger kid, I don't think it really played that big of a role, in my eyes at least. When the launch of AI kind of took over, it was a little bit different. But I feel like it's pretty easy for kids my age to understand AI, and you can recognize it pretty easily. So, in my opinion, I mean, not that much.
Social media played a bigger role, and I think the traditional media failed.
Last election, it played a big role because every time I got voted for Trump or said something for Trump, I got a 3-day ban, 5-day ban, 10-day ban, if not a 30-day ban.
It played a good part. There was a lot of things that wasn't getting out there. The Hunter Biden laptop thing got squashed on social media. There were several other things that got squashed. They didn't like talking about. They don't bring up the good stuff. They just kind of leave it, and they don't tell the whole story, the truthful story, I don't think.
Well, in the state of Iowa, they had that Seltzer poll that came out that was totally crooked. They showed him losing in Iowa by 4 points, and he ended up winning Iowa by 13 points. So, if anything, it energized the base that, hey, if this is what it is, we're going to get out there and bust it. We're going to do even better, work harder than ever before. So it actually worked in our favor.
But the censorship was terrible, and it influenced a lot of people we know, and they bought into it completely, and it was terrible.
Don't trust the mainstream media. You got to trust, go straight to the source. Don't read the reports, go straight to the source. If you want to know what was said, watch the speech.
Pretty big. I think it's very, very important that we have a free media where we can share ideas and debate facts. During COVID, we saw a lot of the freedoms be eroded, and I think today the election of Donald Trump and taking office is a sign that the American people want the freedom back.
Yes, sir. First, we have a list of pardons and commutations relating to events that occurred on January 6, 2021.
Okay, and how many people is this?
I think this order will apply to approximately 1,500 people, sir.
So this is January 6th, and these are the hostages? Approximately 1,500 for a pardon?
Yes.
Full pardon?
Full pardon or commutation?
Full pardon. We have about 6 commutations in there where we're doing further research.
Christopher Carter here. It's January 20th. I'm at the D.C. jail. Historic events here tonight. Donald Trump has signed the pardons one after one. He says he wants his prisoners out tonight. What we see here is the supporters that have been down here for over 2 years, lobbying for their loved ones, asking the president to pardon them, and even the former president to get involved. And now the current president has taken action. Tonight, the prisoners will be released.
Oh, it's ecstatic.
And get you guys out of there.
I just owe a lot to the American people for supporting us and helping us and just encouraging, and all the prayers. I thank the Lord Jesus Christ for everything He did for us.
A lot of people waiting for you. Love you.
When so many families went through the court hearings, and it was a 90-something%, plus conviction rate. There was absolutely no justice.
We knew this was going to happen for you, brother.
Oh, it's been a long time coming, it feels like. Thank you, Lord. It's been longer for some people, but it's been a long 20 months for me.
Yes.
Well, hiya.
Mr. Pollock, what happened?
They said the families could come up there, but then they ran everybody back across because they didn't know that many relatives were here. Hey, what's up, man? How's it going?
Oh my God.
Yeah, well, I'm feeling great about what's happened. I was in 12 different jails and prisons for about 1,075 days, or just shy of 3 years. A lot of time in unconstitutional abusive conditions. One of the places being unconstitutional abusive being this place right behind me, which I was kicked out of when I snuck out some footage of our terrible, atrocious conditions. You're not allowed to visit family for 2 years, or family visit you. Not allowed to get haircuts or shaves. You got to chemically burn it off if you want a haircut. Not able to leave your... I was in solitary for 6 months. I know some people have been there longer than that. Scurvy, we got scurvy from no fruits or vegetables. Absolutely atrocious conditions, all because of our political beliefs. They targeted us, labeled us as domestic terrorists, and held us in a domestic terrorist wing. Even took our First Amendment rights away and said, you guys can't go to church in this very facility and others because we're domestic terrorists, pre-trial and even after.
So I've been here a couple hours right now. Things are getting a little hectic at the jail. You can see the cops are making some serious moves here. A lot of family members, a lot of supporters, a lot of people in this movement have been here for years at the jail every night. What has evolved into what we know as Freedom Corner, led by a certain few dedicated individuals and their loved ones. Right now they anticipate the release of many, many people who've been in this jail, and we really don't have accurate information as to what they've been through, but I think we're probably about to hear it. So this is going to be a historic moment in the nation's history.
There was word at first that they were going to take this case by case, and that made me pretty upset. So whenever I found out that he was going to pardon all 1,500 immediately, I was very happy. And I think he should be here when it happens, honestly, because these are like some of the most dedicated and righteous people in this country who actually had the guts to do extreme things in order to save the country and the response to a rigged election. I mean, if there's any time for revolution, it was then, and I'm so thankful for these people, and I'm so thankful they're finally going to be released.
You're the one that met Stuco.
Historic. This is on par with freeing the Iranian hostages. What Reagan did, Trump now has done it, and he's up Reagan. These are, as you said, political prisoners. They're hostages. They were politically persecuted for their beliefs. This should never have happened. And what everybody's out here, there's been people out here since day one, over 1,000 days. Rain and shine, they've been out here showing support. And what it is for freedom. Our constitutional rights can never be trampled the way they were, but this is just day one. We're going to keep it going. Now it's time for step 2, which is accountability. We're going to speak with justice. We're going to speak with FBI and the new administration, get the files, go through them, find out who did what laws were broke, who coerced who, and they're going to be subject to persecution under the law. He understood that these are heroes that were standing up for their rights, that were coerced to go in the Capitol, and then they were used by the Justice Administration as an example for people not to speak out. So that they were using an example. If you speak up, if you have another view that the administration doesn't like, we will take your freedom.
What a lot of people don't realize here about the January 6th supporters is they are constantly harassed by a contingent of Antifa that come and they really disrupt megaphones, vulgar statements, and they get arrested sometimes. They're out here tonight. I'll show you a little bit of them. Absolutely freezing out here right now. We've heard 2 people have come out. One went out in an ambulance, and the word inside is that Jake Lang is getting roughed up till the second they release him. So we'll see what type of condition he comes out in.
It's Ronnie Sandlin. I was incarcerated for 45 months. I did 1.5 years in solitary confinement in that facility right there. And if you listen to the media narrative, it's white racist nationalists to storm the quote unquote storm the Capitol. It was nothing like what the media narrative said it was. And the truth's about to come out. We're all going to see the truth. It's going to take some time, but the truth's going to be disseminated. But I remember going into that right there, that driveway right there, realizing my life was going to be completely changed, entering in the belly of the beast and doing 1.5 years in solitary confinement. Now, no individual should go through no human being should go through solitary confinement. We did 1.5 years in solitary confinement. This is America. Why? Because we dared to question an unfair election, an election that clearly had improprieties. At the very least, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, there was improprieties in that election. And because we dared to speak truth to power, they put us through a torturous, very, very terrible position. What's going on?
It's good to be an American. This is what freedom looks like. Hey, sweetheart, come here. This is what freedom looks like. This is what we fight for. This is what we stood at the Capitol for. My father, Ronnie, Peter.
I said that sounds like my son's voice. All right, now you can cry. You couldn't cry in goddamn court. Now you can cry.
Save us, Lord, from this oppression. You did it.
Good job.
My father. This man has stood by my side. He has fought. He has come against these evil people, and he has never given up. Where's Rachel at? Where's Rachel? She is stood. We feel amazing. This is what being Americans all about. Get over here, sir. This woman right here, my fiance, come here, has stood by my side with my father. These are the people that make America great. This is what we fought for. Rachel's a Jan 6er too. She stormed the Capitol for freedom and justice too, and was pardoned yesterday by our lovely President Trump, guys. We are witnessing an indelible moment in American history where freedom is finally able to reign again, where we don't have to be sad about and hiding in corners for exercising our rights, where we're no longer being censored on social media left and right, where there are 2 genders again, where men are not 1 mile away from the United States Capitol lying in solitary confinement for 900 days. American people are relieved. This institutional nightmare, this weaponization, these institutions that have crumbled are now being restored. Faith and trust and hope are back in America. We are back, baby. We are back, baby. God bless.
USA.
USA.
His pardon pronouncement, he also told his Justice Department dismiss the cases that were pending that were not yet concluded in the court system, and that's what the Justice Department was doing yesterday in a flurry of court filings. But
All right, we've been out here all night waiting for these people to get released. It's funny who you meet out here. This is Stuart Rhodes, one of the major players in this historical event, originally sentenced, I believe, for seditious conspiracy, 20 years.
One of the alleged major players.
Right, well,
Yeah, right.
Some people might say you're a historical figure. How does it feel to be out here now from where you were yesterday?
Well, like Rob and I were talking, Bob Moores and I were talking, we walked in there to go look and see when our guys are getting out, all the rest of the J6 was in there. It was weird being on the outside looking in for a change. You know, rather than being in that place. It's a horrible place to be.
How do you feel that they're not out right now and you're here waiting?
It's upsetting to us. They should have been out last night, and we're not sure why they have not been released. They're supposed to be long overdue. I got out last night myself at FCI Cumberland.
What would you like to say to the mainstream media now?
Nothing whatsoever. Propaganda arm of Deep State. You know, it's very much like Orwell's 1984, of the Ministry of Truth, which is where all the lies are spun. You know, we were in the Ministry of Love. We were tortured with solitary confinement. I was in solitary confinement for over a year. And a lot of other guys treated the same way. And that's meant to break your spirit and coerce you into taking a plea deal and giving up hope. It didn't work on me. It didn't work on my co-defendants.
And you said that since the beginning. You're upset with so many of these people that took these plea deals, and look where we are
sure,
now.
yeah. And here's how I feel about that. I still have my honor. They don't. They've lost their honor. You know, I feel sorry for them. And as a Christian, of course, I'm compelled to forgive them and have compassion for them. But what I want them to do is to make it right by now speaking the truth about how they were coerced into a plea bargain to accept to plead guilty to a crime they did not commit and to agree to lie. I call it testify, but to agree to bear a false witness against somebody else. I want them to come out and tell the truth about that, and then blow the whistle on the prosecutors who suborned perjury and committed conspiracy to commit perjury, and they should be prosecuted. Article 2, the Constitution says it's the state legislature that has the power to decide how the electors are selected. They will decide that manner of selecting the electors. And so they passed state laws. They passed state laws about elections. And those state laws were meant to prevent cheating and to prevent fraud. And so when you violate those state laws, you're violating the Constitution because you're not doing what the Constitution says. If you're having a judge or an executive branch election official change the rules, which means violate the state law, you're not changing the manner of selection by the legislature.
18-year sentence, you said to me. The only way I'm getting out of jail is if a conservative president.
If President Trump gets back in.
Mm-hmm. And that was President Trump, and here we are today. What would you say to President Trump?
Well, I think, as he said, I believe that God's hand was on him, saved his life, and God's hands on his country. And by the grace of God that he was saved, that then his job now is to save this country. And he also saved us as J6ers.
We couldn't talk about, anything political. No, nothing J6. I was like hunkered down waiting for the last 4 years, especially when the FBI came to my house. I was with a police officer. We didn't go in. We were behind everything, and I'm sitting there nervous, wondering if, I'm going to get arrested for just trespassing because they're at my house. And then I didn't look until 2 years after. I'll share you this video. I got images of guys dressed up, yelling. They're definitely either confidential informants or Antifa.
It's garbage. That's a lie.
It absolutely is garbage.
They've known for a year that Donald Trump was going to do this, and he's been repeating that claim for months and months and months. If anybody should have been prepared to do something like this, it's the D.C. Gulag. They should have been the first to let the hostages go. Now they're going to be the last, but again, we shouldn't be surprised. This is what they do. They're taking the opportunity to twist the knife one last time in the hearts and minds of the American people before they have to let go of it forever. So I did 3.5 years. I was first in Allegheny County Jail, then I was taken here, then I went to Northern Neck for 13 months, then Lewisburg. Then from Lewisburg, I was brought back here to get sentenced. Then from here, I was taken to the Philadelphia Detention Center. But once I was done with Philly, then I was taken to Loretto, and from Loretto, I was brought to the halfway house in Pittsburgh, where I was released from last night. And so if I was released from a halfway house at 11:45 p.m. last night, there's no reason why those men shouldn't have also been released. This is on this jail completely. The jail is guilty, not those innocent men.
So I've been here for 3 days right now. This is pretty much winding down. There's 10 to 15 prisoners left in the jail behind me. There's various supporters of the J6 movement that have been here since day one, like Mickey Whithoff is here, Ashley Babbitt's mother, and she's been an instrumental part of this movement for over 2.5 years now. And this is the final moments of what was Freedom Corner as these J6 supporters, patriots, family members, spouses, loved ones gather to see the release. But ironically, they're not getting released because the D.C. government seems to be ignoring the White House's orders to release these prisoners. Lawmakers have been here over the last few days, along with U.S. Marshals. Nothing is resolved. If there's any type of indication of what's going on, you can see behind me, I think this way, the flags are flying at half-staff in direct violation of a presidential order. So that should give you an idea of the culture in this organization behind me here.
I'm feeling frustrated that these guys inside are dragging their feet and everybody else in the system is out, but in true DC form, these guys are making people suffer as long as they possibly can. Well, I've made some lifelong friendships, and these people truly that we spend every night with out here on the corner really become your family. The frustration is mainstream media showed no interest in what happened to these men until President Trump got involved, and then some of them are here just to show us in a bad light, and some of us are here because it's finally safe to talk about it. But my idea of true journalism is to not be on the bandwagon, is to be in front of the bandwagon. These men went to go exercise their First Amendment right and were attacked by the police, and the Biden regime has done everything to censor and sweep this incident under the rug, including the corruption within the D.C. government, the DOJ, Matthew Graves, Merrick Garland, and in my opinion, Christopher Wray. Just these court systems. These men go in there and they are very much judged on the day and not their actions of the day. And it's guilty. You know, they take pride in all these plea deals when it should be not pride, it should be the government's shame that they pressure these men into taking horrific deals. Well, actually, when we first got here, if we talked about vaccines or stolen elections, we were immediately booted off of our YouTube live stream. But now we are allowed to talk about the forced vaccination. And we do talk about a stolen election, and we're having less booting. But yeah, in the beginning it was really bad. And people, as you know, people were deplatformed from their banks, from their, everything, from social media and credit cards, banks, Airbnbs, all that. I plan on going home at the end of February because, these men are going to go home and go back to their families. And, we've done 905 days today. It would be of our vigil. And if there's nobody inside to call outside, there's no reason to be here. So my plan is to go back to San Diego, and beyond that, I have no plan. I'm winging it.
This is a DC kid vote.
It's a good law.
Jails all across our country. All across our country. Jails.
You spend how many days in solitary inside this jail, guy?
227 days.
Solitary confinement.
And I guarantee people around here don't even know what one day is like.
Guy, when you were on trial here in D.C., did you ever think you were going to get a fair trial?
Absolutely not.
Why is that?
The obvious is there. You're not going to get a fair trial here if you're not on their political agenda. You're not going to get that here.
Nicole, how do you feel at this moment?
Oh, I'm elated. I'm elated. Oh, sorry. I'm elated on so many levels. This has been a hard fight. Nikki Withoff has stood by us and all the J6 community. Every day. And, and she's been such a warrior. And it makes me proud to be out here making sure that everybody gets out. No man left behind, and that's a fact. I understand bad things happened that day, but due process violations absolutely did happen. And, we need a real investigation. And so all I can say is I feel happy. I feel determined.
Since you've been involved with this, you've learned quite a lot about the court system. What do you think about the U.S. federal court system?
Well, I think it needs to be overhauled all the way around. They enforce people into pleas. It's real intimidation.
Stop taking plea deals, America.
Yeah.
This day, starting today, America, stop taking plea deals. You're making deals with the devil. You're bending the knee to tyranny. They're scaring Americans into these plea deals. They're screwing us out of our constitutional Sixth Amendment right to trial and a jury. You're taking plea deals. It's on you. Stop doing it.
Call me Wild Bill.
How long were you in there for?
I don't even remember. It feels like forever.
What was the treatment with the guards in there like?
Some were good. Most were bad. It wasn't really the guards. It wasn't really the guards. It was the lack of medical care. I have spinal cord injuries, and if it wasn't for people outside that called in for help, I would have probably been paralyzed.
What are you going to do with your life now, moving forward?
Go back to my family. Do what I was doing before.
Any message for President Trump on the pardon?
I thank you for that, and hopefully the real news of what happened that day comes out. The truth comes out.
I think it's 905 days. This is supposed to be the final night of Freedom Corner, and what we're hearing now is temperatures, health vitals are being monitored, which means in the ultimate kind of FU move at the last moment, they might be transferring these final 4 prisoners. So right at the last moment, they're taking their temperatures. They're probably going to move them to make one last snafu
for the last remaining J6 prisoners. The supporters, the family members, the loved ones, the people that were here in J6 are here tonight. They're not leaving. No man left behind is their motto. We're here to see what happens.
All the Christians I ever talked to, you know when you've entered into a place that is so demonic that you don't belong there. And D.C., unfortunately, is one of these places. I mean, every Christian I've talked to, they say this is the darkest place I've ever been in my life, and they say I'm never coming back. And it's got so much rich history, and God's given us such a great country. And I know I like crazy, but I am crazy for Jesus. And I don't care what I look like. You know, Jesus, when he walked on this earth, they weren't attracted to him by his beauty. You know, he was a very humble-looking man. And you alone is the only one that's going to deliver us from this evil. Lord, and we're calling upon your name. Father, you said when we're in trouble to call upon your name. Father, I thought this was going to be over 3 days ago. Lord, I just thank you, Lord, that you hadn't let me give up hope, Lord. They kept asking us, what are you going to do if they don't let him out? I said, I'm going to serve my Lord. It's got the stars where we're heading. We're heading through these stars one day into a new Jerusalem, into a new world that God said we can't even imagine how great it's going to be. There's a better home here. And when those witches come out and said, Ashley's not going to get a pardon. No, Ashley got her pardon. That's right. Ashley got her pardon. She's home. And one day we're going to be home, and this kind of junk's never going to bother us again. There'll be no more tears. We won't be waking up in the middle of the night missing our loved ones. We won't be waking up, you know,
no more tears in heaven.
That's right. No more tears. But right now we're in a battle of our life, and that's what I've been crying the whole 4 years. We're struggling with demons that are holding Satan's hand. Heavenly Father, we thank you that we got a God that's so much stronger, Jesus, to deliver them. And we just thank you and praise you that our prayers aren't just going up to a God that's made of stone. Lord, we have the living God. Father, we don't die. We don't serve a dead God. We don't serve idols that don't hear us. Father, we know our prayers are being heard. Father, we love you and praise you in Jesus' name.
My name is James Grant, and I'm from North Carolina.
Tell me, how'd you get involved with this?
I strongly felt the election was stolen. You know, we have affidavits, some called Benford's Law, which is basically most real numbers in any real set of data start with a 1. You know, the election data didn't fit that. You know, I think beyond a shadow of a doubt, the election was stolen. We wanted an audit. And, you know, I took the LSAT, the LSAT, about 10 days after January 6th. And, you know, I actually had scholarships to Washington and Lee, near full scholarships to Washington and Lee, the law school there, and the University of Alabama School of Law. And I never showed up. I was whisked off to jail. And, you know, that's some of the prices I paid for this. Oh, I did what I felt was right. You know, I felt an obligation to go. I didn't even particularly want to go. I just felt like it was something I had to do. These people deserve pardons. You know, these are people without criminal records that were given years-long sentences. You know, I was a law student. I pushed a fence that didn't touch anyone, and I was charged with assault with a deadly weapon for it, and, you know, spent 32 months in jail for it in horrible conditions. But to be honest, when Joe Biden pardoned his son, I was happy because I figured we're definitely getting one now. Well, I would really like to get back into law school. You know, I was actually at the Capitol today, and I was talking to and just trying to blanket senators and congressmen from Alabama. You know, just hoping someone could put a good word in for me. But I'm going to be applying to a lot of law schools, and I'm hoping to reclaim that and get redemption.
My name's Gregory Purdy.
How'd you get involved with January 6th?
So I went there to voice my opinion about the election that we had. I believe that there were major problems and constitutional issues, and I didn't believe the hype about 20 to 30 different locations having broken pipes. I didn't believe that somebody could get 20 million votes in 3 o'clock in the morning in the heat of the night. You look at the graph, it's going up like that, and I wanted to have my voice heard. There needed to be an investigation, so we went there to peacefully protest.
What happened to you that day? Why did they arrest you?
Well, me and my uncle, who's beside me right here, we told police officers we love them, we're peaceful, we don't want to hurt you, and we have that video, and we said, listen, we're going to move past you because we want to go to an area where our voice can be heard. When we go past you, we're not going to hurt you. And when we ran past them, they tackled me, and they charged me with assault on a police officer, even though they tackled me and assaulted me.
Tell me now about your experience in the jail system. How long did you do?
I just got out yesterday. I did 7.5 months. Absolutely treacherous. I don't say this to complain, but I say this so we can have the problems other people in there are dealing with be known by the world. They're torturous conditions. It's inhumane. I haven't been outside for months. Rat feces in my food almost every single day. Guards retaliating and coming in and sending people in to start fights and doing anything they can to make your life horrible. We just heard a story from someone. They had a guard threaten to plant a knife in his cell illegally. I mean, the stories are just endless, and we have to change our justice system. We need justice reform immediately. And that's what I'm hoping is the next steps for this administration, which we believe it will happen.
My name is Robert Turner, also known as Uncle Bobby.
Tell me.
All right, my dad. You know what? We went there. We knew something was wrong. Common sense. We knew they cheated. We knew the election was stolen. It was out there. We knew. So we went there to voice our opinions, to let them know that we needed something. We needed these votes counted again. We needed something, our voices to be heard to know what happened.
Pardons for the J6 committee, what's that mean? You're accepting something that you're guilty of. So what are you guilty of? You're guilty of lying and putting these people behind jail, behind bars, without their family, losing their jobs, losing their homes, losing their cars, everything. And I hate the fact that these elected officials think they can get away with this crap.
God bless y'all. And we're going to pay it all forward. America healthy, America wealthy, and Americans first.
That's
our
right.
goal.
Americans first.
Americans first.
Still big old group hug right here.
Big group hug. Get in here.
God bless you guys.
Oh, yeah. God bless you.
We've been praying for you guys every day since day one, man.
Oh, man.
When they told me on that day, January 6th, that they stormed the Capitol, I said, good. Good. Right, let's go, man.
We're taking our country back, boys.
God bless you guys,
that's
man.
awesome.
God bless you too, brother. We got our country back.
That's right.
Yeah,
we
that's
got
right.
our country back.
Second chance. Nice.
Donald J. Trump.
Donald Trump.
USA! 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 Woo! Nice. Fired up, man.
Yes.
I really appreciate it. I have to tell you, when I watch it, I think of so many other things, and there was a few little technical things, but these type of things happen, and you're really our first test audience. And a lot of you, were there. Gary was in it. He's always great because he just right to the point. So if you guys want to come up here and ask me a question, I'd love to hear from you. You can just come right up. And I'll answer anything about the project and what I know about January 6th. Would you like? So who wants to go first? Mr. Joe the Box. Here he is. All right. Yep, he can step right up. He's never shy.
I am very shy.
Did you like the feature?
I was blown away. I had, I didn't know the faces. I heard the names and I heard the people talking when I was ever down there on the corner, and they would make the phone calls, they would make the roll call, and you heard the voices, but I never really saw the faces. The one that I really was looking forward to see and meet, I was not able to get down there when they were released, but John and Gary were down there making the rounds. I think they even put a heater down there. It was so cold that one night. And I was down there on the January 6th anniversary. I saw you in that snowstorm that came over and stopped Mickey from even getting there. She was stuck in, Oklahoma or something like that with the storm. But my question and concern is this, Chris. You've really built it up. You brought it to everybody's attention, and we kind of see. Will you continue your work when they uncover the lies? Will you continue your work to bring out the truth and show the American people and get out of the dark that we're in?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I look at so many of the faces here today, and really, you could do what would be the aftermath. People who have these felony convictions on their record that shouldn't. People that have lost everything because they've spent every last penny they have. People whose families have left them because of what they believe in politically. All of this has happened. So, yeah, I really have thought about it because that was just like a quick, like a sort of Cliff Notes version. Remember Cliff Notes? There's really like different chapters that you could dive into with every single one of these networks and what they've done, but also the people and how they're rebuilding their life. We know about the recovery project that Jenny Cudd and Gary are doing in Texas, Recovery Ministries. It's going to be amazing. What's happened is this J6 movement has evolved into really an American grassroots movement, and that's what we want to do. We don't want to give our money to the federal government to help us. We want to give it to our community charities.
Well, unfortunately, the federal government takes our money in the form of taxes, and they were using it and giving it to their, all of their NGOs that were doing the ugly work for them. The one other thing I want to say, and then I'd be more than happy to pass this mic to anybody in the crowd like Sue that may have a question. Just kidding, Sue. The continuation. All right, so here's one of the things I want to try and help you if I can, Chris. When you talk to some of the people, the one that really got me in my heart was Guy Reffitt. Guy Reffitt, who, if I was Guy Reffitt, I would be so angry. And this man came out so calm. The point that I want to make in the question, or that I want to bring to you is there was so much love for God in there, and so much faith for God. When this guy, Guy Reffitt, went through it, and he was in the, locked up in the box and in and out, and his family, he got in trouble because his son was indoctrinated to the college that he went to. And his teacher is the one that set him up. And when he went to trial, his son even testified against his own father.
Yeah, that's one of the tougher situations. I covered Guy Reffitt's trial. He was sentenced to 7 years. And, the tragedy with the family and what's happened there, I know that you could look at it that way and say, yeah, this is a family that's really paid the price for this event. But there's also a flip side to that coin, and her name is Nicole Reffitt. And that is kind of like a force to be reckoned with. So Guy Reffitt, he really got himself a good woman there. I mean, Nicole Reffitt, for all intents and purposes, she turned herself into a legit court reporter. There was never a trial that I was at 333 Constitution Avenue where she wasn't there. There were others too, like Kara Castronova, who were around a lot when a lot of these journalists just weren't around to cover the story. So.
Well, this was very interesting with Guy, and I had told you that I would be so angry if I thought about that. And last night when we watched the Road Home Ministries last night with Jenny, when she came up here, one of the things that she had said to everybody that was going to happen, that she had worked very hard to forgive the government. And I thought about that for a few minutes, and I really don't think that's going to happen. My faith leaders that are here with me continually remind me how forgiveness is going to, how that is so important, and forgiveness will bring you to God. And I want to just make the comment about Guy Reffitt, who absolutely forgives his son for what he did. Very hard. So, Chris, one more thing for you. Are you finding that the people are angry, or are you finding that the prisoners are forgiving?
That's a pretty good question. Certain people, they have an ability to kind of let go of the anger a little bit easier than others. And I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but it comes in waves. You know, it's like, oh, okay, I can deal with this, and then, but no, we can't. You know, and so it's sort of how do we negotiate that? Because no doubt people in this movement have PTSD. You didn't even have to be there that day to be in the orbit of someone that this was happening to. And then having the means to defend yourself, you know, is another aspect. They had public defenders in Washington that were purposely presenting awful deals to people, saying that they were going to help them, and next, throw away the key. Great. You know, it's not really the legal system needs big time changes, and we know that from what they were saying about the plea deals in the end there, and also the presumption of innocence. You know, when you really get involved with the system and you make the system prove you guilty with a jury, they make you pay for that. They see that as taking the court's time. And how dare you exercise your right to a jury trial? That is what they don't want. Now in Washington, that's like LeBron James showing up to your high school basketball team. Who do you think's going to win? He is. You know, 90% of Washington voted for Obama. So it's a set-up jury. They have to figure out some type of staggered system in case anything like this ever happens again. These people should be tried in their hometowns, not the town of Washington, D.C.
Yes, that's true. One of the other big things that came out, in my opinion, was the conditions of the jail. The conditions that the prisoners that I know that have come through here, and some of the things that they had brought out. Your film had brought it out through their you know, their interviews from you. We do a January 6th prison reform show out of here, Chris, that has Sarah Maccabee. Her husband, Colt Maccabee, was, I think, on the West Terrace at the time. And Shane Jenkins also at the West Terrace. And in here, in our own warehouse here, we have Tommy Tatum that was there right on the terrace. So the conditions of the jails, you brought it out. Maybe you can continue down that road and bring some of the J6ers in the truce if they've had. What are your thoughts on the conditions?
Well, it's basically like this. You've seen the footage from the Alligator Alcatraz. I think a lot of people in the January 6th community were wish that they were sent to the Alligator Alcatraz instead of the DC Gulag or whatever. And a lot of people don't realize this. In these jails, like Rikers Island, I had a situation like this happen to me. I had an overzealous prosecutor after me. She found out that I was covering OAN in New York City. She didn't like that very much, right? She said, well, we think that you should spend some time in Rikers Island, for some BS she made up. Now, when you actually get a qualified attorney on that, that doesn't happen. That's $10,000 later. And they say, hey, oh, well, you know, you might have been innocent, but BLM runs that prison. That's their people. They are the prison guards. So it's a double-edged sword. You think you're getting a person that's going to, like, just slam the door and throw you some food. No. What they're going to do is open the door and walk away while their cousin comes in. And they said, no matter what, you cannot ever be there. Just like the DC Gulag was completely like that. It's not really a safe place, even when you're in there. So we need a lot of prison reform. I mean, it's a huge thing. They need to address it. Just like Brandon Fellows said, they didn't have vitamins. They got scurvy. You know, don't they say 3 hots in a cot? Or what is that, the Marines?
Right. No, that's right. Mickey Wickoff loved that one because she would say, whatever you do, don't get arrested on a Friday because you don't want to spend the weekend in jail.
Yeah.
But it is a nice place to be with 3 hots in a cot because they do feed you. Just one more note on this also, the prison reform situation. I know one of the games that they played was taking the J6 prisoners and bouncing them around from jail to jail. And a great friend here at the America First Warehouse is Sarah Carpenter. Sarah Carpenter is a J6er that spent, I think, 3 years, I don't know, Sue, or at least that. She was bounced around from jail to jail, a woman, I know what women are, and also a New York City police officer at the time of 9/11. And she was downtown in 9/11 many years ago and was affected by that, like you wouldn't believe, and felt the need to be there on January 6th. Well, she was tossed from jail to jail to jail. And there's something to be said about that. She lost all consciousness of dates and times of where she was. It was really horrific. And then to see her come out and to be the lady that she is and the God-fearing woman that she is. And did you know this, Chris? She was the weapons that she used was a rosary, a little Jesus doll, and a tambourine.
What was happening to her was actually quite common. It's called diesel therapy. So when you start to get comfortable and your lawyers know where you are and your family knows where you are, you get moved. So you never have the ability to really, you know, talk with your lawyers, have people maybe send you money from your family. None of that. They move you. You know, it's one of the punishments, diesel therapy. I don't know if I included it in the movie. I thought I did, but maybe I'll have to go back and put that in. So
I do know I heard you talking about it, and that's what made me think a lot about Sarah. Now, I don't have to sit up here and continue to talk about it because I am a J6 advocate, as you know, and I love the Freedom Corner down there. Went down there many times I can. But there are some people that were actually there. Tommy Tatum, would you like to come up and say a few things and maybe have a question?
yeah,
for
sure.
Chris?
Bring him up.
All right, come on up, Tommy.
How are you?
So, Chris, I didn't tell you this. You're right here. So, I didn't watch it intentionally until today.
Oh, wow.
And it's one of the best ones I've seen.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, I cried all the way through it.
Roseanne Boylan, this is the man who's kept the name alive.
Yeah. And, Chris, you did so I made friends with Chris early on. I forget even how. And Chris grew up in D.C., and he knew what it was like to be hunted by Antifa. So that's why I really liked you a lot. You gave us a lot of and then Ivan Reichland taught us how to kind of navigate Capitol Hill. So I always liked you two guys and trusted you.
Wow, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate
As
that.
far as the documentary, like you said, there's so much stuff that you can put in it. And I felt I am getting lots of J6ers who are 6 months out of jail. They've looked at everything for themselves, and now they're really wanting to tell their story. So.
Yeah, you can hit me up at Carter Rocks 1. You know, it's like anything. Money, it's never going to make you happy, but it makes things easier.
Yep.
And that's where a lot of these people are, you know.
I actually
they
wrote
need money.
talking about, well, there's a big, huge discussion about all that, obviously. And I think that I don't think a settlement's going to do it because you're going to have their same last name. Your kids are going to have your same last name 30 years from now. And these Democrats will wait to terrorize your family, I promise you, because they can't beat Trump. They'll never get another chance, but they can take it out on us. So I wrote it. It's called the Roseanne Boylan Act, and it will give us J6ers federal protection as if it were the civil rights community. So that's kind of what
A little extra added protection for
Yes.
having none and being targeted. That could work out nicely.
So anyway,
All
that's all I
right.
got.
You good?
Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. All right. Anybody else? Don. Here you go, Don. Don't fall down there. So what did you think?
I thought this was excellent, Chris.
Great.
And my question is to you about the fake news people out there who are giving fake information. How do you think this is going to change? How are you guys going to change them to give them get the facts out?
Right. Well, I appreciate you asking that. So a lot of people out there, they'd say, how do you listen to this person? What type of street cred do they have? Well, I'm a 4-time Peabody award-winning journalist. A lot of people don't know this. I used to work at CNN. Before they lost their minds, I left, right? And I can tell you this. Then I've done stints at OAN, Real America's Voice. I'm completely on my own right now. But as far as your question goes with the media, I made this because people need to see really what they've done, how they have affected our lives. And really, I mean, I hate to say it because everybody says they need to be held accountable, but they need to be punished.
Yes, my idea of punishing these people is not doing it like you said in the Capitol. Bring them to our, not in their towns either, because they probably got judges who are right in hands with them.
Oh, yeah, you don't really have a fair shot in
you
D.C.
don't have a fair shot. And I know how the court systems work. It's a big piggy bank, and they're corrupt.
Right. Well, you know, here's the situation. When the audience leaves the networks, that's how you get them, because they lose their money. And let's face it, if you really want to hurt somebody, you hit them in their pockets. You leave that, the audience leaves, and then they say, oh, look, you know, Colbert, he's only losing $40 million a year to have the same predictably not funny, dumb humor thrown at us, right? I mean, so many people have talked about it, but I think that they really have just begun to feel the effects of this. Like right now, this merger with CBS, $36 million, that'll happen because Trump said it. He goes, you get rid of that guy because he's annoying and he's not even handsome. You know what I mean? If he was just that dumb and it was like Ben Affleck, the women can handle it while they were falling asleep. But he's not even good looking, right? So Trump says, get rid of him. Remember, though, when Fox News was sued by Dominion, this happened to them as well. Massive settlement, $700 million, the biggest in the history of the media, right? And they also said, Tucker Carlson, gone. Yeah. They'll take one big scalp, you know, usually that happens. So I think we're on the way to seeing it. You know, networks like Real America's Voice, OAN, what you guys are doing here at the America's First Warehouse is amazing. They need more events like that and people like you coming to them. So thanks.
Thank you, Chris.
All right. Anybody else? Joe the Box coming back up. One more. Here you go. This is a free-flowing format here. I've got you one right here. So what is your name?
Kathleen Lyons.
Kathleen Lyons. Step right up here.
Okay.
I don't bite. So what was your question?
So I am a retired correction officer for 17 years. I spent 16
Wow.
hours a day in jail.
So I better really know what I'm talking about, huh? So
Yeah.
that situation at some of these jails, it's not the inmates.
My blood boils
It's
when
what
I
the
hear it.
guards let the other inmates do.
Mhm.
They just didn't see something. And then
Yep.
what did you think about diesel therapy? Was that legit? I mean,
Yep, absolutely.
once you start to see someone get too comfortable, nope, that's not what this is.
Yep. So I worked at Nassau County Jail.
Okay.
And Nassau County Jail is breaking the law for 60-some years because their sheriff is appointed, not elected.
Interesting.
So we're trying to work on that right now.
Yeah, well, I know that some of these local sheriffs are extremely connected politically, you know?
Yep, it's just insane. And I spoke to a lot of the January 6th guys at CPAC, and like the conditions at the DC jail, DC isn't particularly in our country, so
Right.
that's the difference. So all the other jails around the country that were doing these horrible things, if we brought food to the floor and it wasn't the temperature,
Trash.
no. Well, the inmates all fought, but we got in trouble. So anything that happened to you guys outside of DC is so wrong. We had a guy die in jail. The officers beat him up. This was before I got there. This was in the 90s, late 90s. They beat him up and he died. He was a heroin addict for like 30 years, had a spleen 3 times or 5 times the size of a normal spleen, so he died. The feds came in. Those guys went away for 25 years. The feds came in and destroyed the place. We were afraid to do anything at all in 2000. I started in 99. And they were all over us. We would go out to the bars after work in the first year I was there, and everybody thought there were undercover feds all over the place. So everybody was afraid to even talk. And they thought I was a Fed, an undercover Fed, because I was a girl coming into the jail. And it was so beyond horrible how they came into our jail and made us do everything by the book, that when I hear these guys around the country and they did everything to them in our country against the law, I get crazy.
Well, I have a question for you then.
Okay.
You know, right now, one of the things that's revolutionized police work are these body cams. You know, you have to wear them on the beat. If something happens, it's suspect on you. Why wasn't the camera running?
Right.
Prison guards and correctional officers maybe should have this type of requirement, you know, where things are recorded.
Right. Well, in visiting, they were supposed to be updoing the camera system in the visiting room.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, they want as least on us as possible. So to carry a camera, I don't know how that would go in the jail.
I actually have a second documentary in the works right now, and I've been going to a minimum security women's prison, 700 women in Alderson, West Virginia. I have a doctor who has been ensnared in this opioid crisis, and she was a small town doctor, and she's sentenced to 10 years at 70. So I've been taking her husband, who's 88, out to the jail 5 hours one way to see his wife, and he's in a walker, and we're staying in there, he's sneaking in toilet paper. And I'm like, what?
In a regular jail.
Yeah,
See,
they don't
this
have
is-
paper
this is
products in a
so-
women's prison that's minimum security. And then even in the, you know, visiting area, it's all just like chips and candy and stuff. And it's just, it's really, you can end up far worse. You know, I mean, people say it, you know, you don't think things are bad. Well, can always get worse.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, and I don't know how they got treated so badly because...
Well, thanks for being a corrections officer. That's a hard job.
Yeah, it was tough.
Wow.
I got beat up a bunch of times.
You probably can kick some serious
Well,
butt,
I
huh?
don't know about that. But I tried. But
All
thank
right.
you for all you're doing, and the
Thank
movie
you.
was great. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. I didn't know I was going to have someone who knows the system. All right, guys, we got one more coming up here, or two. All right, here we go. Yep, from the Patriots.
From the
Angie, how are
Patriots.
you?
I'm good.
I was on your show the other day. What'd you think of the movie?
I loved it. I loved
Thanks,
it.
that
Thank you
means
for
a lot.
making it. Thank you for making it. I wanted to talk a second about the big tech
Yeah,
censorship.
go ahead. Sure.
Because it was a big part of the film. Even though Trump signed executive orders regarding censorship, it's still ongoing. We're experiencing it here from the warehouse, through our podcasts, through you know, going from a larger audience, all of a sudden it's shrunk down. We're shadow banned, and it's going to take grassroots efforts, independent films, independent people doing their part, sharing things, sending it to your friends, sending it to groups. You know, anywhere you can send it to, share it. We say it all the time, like it and share it, because that helps break the algorithms that we're oppressed by. So and it's still ongoing though. It's still ongoing.
It's a big problem. These settlements have been historic, and if you notice, the media is not talking about it because it's basically a failing grade on themselves. You know, right now there's a big problem with CNN. They're trying to sell it. No one wants to buy it. They're like, why are we going to take this thing that's like so expensive that has no audience?
Right.
So they're all sitting there going like, but I have kids in private school, and I have a Tesla. Like, help me.
Yeah, so what I would say is that, you know, anytime that you see something that reaches you, that touches you, is important to you, do what you can to help, you know, to share it out, to teach other people. There's going to be a point in time where there are going to be a lot of people that are experiencing things in their minds, seeing what's going on, that they're not going to know how to cope with. Literally, they won't know how to cope with. And it's going to be up to us, those that do know and have been in this fight for a long time now, to help expand their knowledge and let them see what, you know, what the truth is. So that's my suggestion. We can't rely on Facebook, on Instagram, it has to be person to person. We have to be people and communicate with each other. That's how it's going to happen.
Amazing. Thanks. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well, man.
Come
Thank
on
you
up
so
right
much.
here. Step into the good shot. There you are. So, what'd you think?
Oh, I thought it was fantastic. Obviously eye-opening, and one of the things I recognized when President Trump gave the pardon, it was an easy pardon because of the lack of due process that was given to the J6ers. So my question is, I have a couple questions actually. Is there litigation? Can there be litigation for the J6ers against the federal government? Will they be able to sue the federal government for lack of due process? Is that a possibility?
This is a great question, okay? One of the hardest things in the world to do is sue the federal government. You know, it's like you can be angry with God. God don't care. The government's kind of like that. They have unlimited time and resources. Now, it was interesting, though. I think Jenny might have brought it to my attention. I've never heard anyone argue the case that because the District of Columbia is actually a territory, not a state, that none of this is relevant here, and there should be no courts here, because if it's not a state and the people don't have representation, then why do they have right to speak in the court? So there's all these things that nobody kind of thought about with that because the scope of it is so big. One of the things that's just interesting where I'm from, I'm actually a native Washingtonian. Washington, D.C. absolutely can never become a state because once it does, immediately it automatically becomes a super state. It supersedes all other states with location, money, power, corruption, influence. That's why D.C. should never be a state. It is supposed to be a territory. And I'm sorry, if you want to live downtown and all that, go do it because you know who owns your house? The government does. You don't even own your house in downtown D.C. proper. They just give you a right to exist, but we'll get back to that in a second. So that's a great question. I mean, I think there's so much going on with that what they really need to do is reconvene a J6 committee for real, right? With rolling coverage from the networks. Let the Democrats talk. Actually, let them just come and not show up because it's what they'll do. You can have people trying to debate it, show the empty seats. They don't care about you. That's what it would say.
So kind of like where you were going with this is, there's a deep state, right, that kind of orchestrated this entire thing. We know there were FBI, undercover FBI in the crowd starting what we believe started a lot of what was going on. What I'm curious about, and are you hearing anything about, is Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, are the good people who are now in charge of government investigating themselves in the FBI? And will we see prosecutions? One of the things, listen, I'm a Christian, man. One of the things that we've been praying for is exposure of the truth. Are we going to see real exposure, real arrests of what we've been praying for? Because we know there's a darkness within our government. What do you know about what's going on?
Well, I think the first step is the task force, right? This whole thing that they've created now to look at all this stuff going back with, Brennan, Clapper, Comey. These people have done a major, major injustice. Now, we all know about the auto pen and all this is going to come out in the wash, but weren't we taught in, high school growing up, don't forge the teacher's signature on your report card? We think we would have learned these things when we were children, but it's manifested itself to the highest levels with zero accountability. He didn't even know what he was signing, right? So none of this stuff holds true. None of it. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see because there really needs to be, separate investigations, but because of the bad luck with special counsels, they hate that word because everything that we go back to here, I had dinner with some people in New York one night, and it was one of these New York style at the table. You feel like you're in a movie and stand up and what do you think? And they said, what do you think about what's going on with Trump and the investigations? And I said, it all goes back to Jeff Sessions. He was the acting attorney general that let this stuff get out of control. They've learned from their mistakes now. It's not leaving the house because once it does, then all CNN's going to do is talk about it for the next 3 years, And here we are, back at the magic show.
And the last thing I want to say is, listen, we saw there was about 1,500 people who were put in jail. Now, look, if we're honest with ourselves, there may have been some people who were honestly guilty of doing some things they shouldn't have done. But I think we know beyond the shadow of a doubt the vast majority of these people were innocent. It's a complete miscarriage of justice. And they were improperly prosecuted inside those jails, and you've covered it greatly, the evil that was done to these people. But you know what, guys, I don't know if you noticed, there was a common thing that kept most of these people going, and it was a complete belief in Jesus, and that Jesus was sustaining them. And I just want to say to you guys, listen, those people were going through some really hard things, and it was God that was sustaining them. And you know what? Sometimes we go through some things in our life that we can't control, and things that are really hard for us to deal with. And I just want you to know from the bottom of my heart, and I know Joe believes this as well, and you see this big cross we have up here. The America First Warehouse stands for Christ First, okay? And if you're going through anything, you know, you could come to us. You know, you could go to Joe, you could go to me, you go to my wife Amanda up there, and just so you know that there is hope. And there's hope in Christ, because a lot of those guys went into those jails without Christ, not having any hope at all. But you know what? They found Jesus inside that jail that gave them hope. And they had no idea if they were going to spend the next 20 years in jail. But they were okay with it because they had Christ in their life. And I just wanted to thank you for highlighting that in the film. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really wanted to bring the religious aspect of it in because, let's face it, you know, everybody goes through a lot in life. And, you know, happiness, it's kind of an inside job, but God will always be there for you. He's the only one. So, Joe, thank you so much for having me, buddy. Great question. Your audience is smart.
Yes, we are well informed. And just a quick shout out and thanks to Mickey Withoff, mom
Wherever
of
you are,
Ashley
Mickey.
Babbitt, right here. We love her. We love you. Thank you very much. Chris Carter, you're a true journalist and a true gentleman.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Everybody watching online and everybody in attendance, Teresa, thank you so much. Appreciate it. AmericaInTheDark.net. Get it to Trump. Thanks.
All right, guys, let's hear it for Chris one more time. Thank you, Chris. And just one quick announcement. The MAGA store is open today. They'd like me to let you know. So if you guys want to head out there after this event, thank you guys for coming. And tune in. And Liberty's Cage that Joe was talking about for prison reform airs Wednesdays on our platforms at 4 p.m. And that'll bring in light of what's going on here and all the prison reform that's needed. So tune in for that and all our other shows. And thank you for being here. Take care.